And it's a lot about that TV show, man, that got people confused. Because I live with my grandma. You know, we'll go to the house on like a weekend. They'll say, hey, we shooting today. We need y'all at the house. They'll come get me from my grandma's house. And right after we done, when the cameras go off, I'm right back to my grandma's house.
After a while, it became easy. Like, I'm a person who is kind of like numb in a situation. That's why I'm saying I'm not in tune with my feelings. Like, even me saying my mom, she was on the road and stuff, like, I became numb with being at my grandma's house. And it's just like, this is what it is. So after a while of me being hurt and like, oh, I want my family and I want this to work out. It's like, even with my mom and my dad, I learned at a young age, everything don't work out. It doesn't have to go as planned.
So my dad went on a podcast and told the world about my virginity. I'm still pretty upset with him about it. I'm not gonna be able to like really get through to him, like connect how I need
But
to.
then you need to try too, though.
He always plays victim, honestly. So like,
Are you angry?
I just don't really care to be around him right now. I'll be a better parent. I mean, I'm not saying he's a bad parent.
No,
I'm not
we get it.
saying,
We get it.
but I'm just saying, like, when it comes to stuff like this, like, I'm just gonna be more connected mentally, emotionally, all of that, so.
It seems like Tiny and her children are constantly involved in something, and it won't stop anytime soon. As they get older, they are blaming their parents for how things turned out, claiming that Tiny's daughter Zan was essentially always outside and that she became the third unwed baby mother to a man with 3 children by the age of 24. 2 more ladies, and let's not even talk about King Harris, who is a social hazard. In addition, this 20-year-old who isn't even capable of tying his own shoes is now expecting a baby MT, and Tiny seemed unsupportive and put the kids in undesirable situations.
For those who don't understand, Tip had some infidelities with a girl who I hired, and that girl is one of the reasons why I got my own house.
After over 20 years together, T and Tiny's relationship is one for the books. They have experienced every possible hardship a couple could encounter, and they are still together, but no one calls them couple goals because they are thus. As a bona fide hitmaker and well-respected member of the rap community, Troublesome Ty was surrounded by ladies and never said no, but it wasn't just about ending his connection with them. He had them on his arm and exuded confidence when he was spotted. Tiny was at home getting ready to give birth to their second kid while they were aware that he was in a highly well-known marriage with children. Reportedly, T was escorting the winner of Love Season 1 to nightclubs. Whoever observed them stated that T and Nikki hooped the video Vix. And Hoops were rather close, but when they were about to depart, things became a little strange when Hoops began to make advances on her. In 2006, Tiny had a stillbirth, and T allegedly begged the vixen to follow him back to his crib so they could have some 3-way fun. And people believed that the stress of his incessant infidelity when he should have been by her side had an impact on her and, eventually, their unborn child. Tiny, however, remained faithful to her man, not only letting him do as he pleased, but also joining him in the lifestyle that T and Tiny were always leading. They would supposedly hold parties where everyone had to do nose candy or Molly, and other ladies would come over to the house to participate in the orgies. According to multiple stories, these orgies were actually with derated Instagram baddies, and occasionally there were even a few celebs who were in on the fun.
T.I. Hot.
He is
One time he and Tiny invited me over for dinner.
Yeah, sure they did.
I was quite flattered.
They were like,
Why didn't you
guess
go?
what's for dinner, you bitch!
Something will inevitably come out or go wrong when you conduct things like this behind closed doors. When things became problematic, it was believed that T and Tiny were paying some of the involved girls. Hand to keep their mouths shut, but their entire predicament was blown publicly by their buddy or business partner, quote-unquote, Sabrina Peterson.
My husband put a gun to my head after me looking out for you on several occasions. You are the battered woman. I'm saying you're the woman that's always somewhere crying. You're the one that's always being cheated on. You're the one, but you're the one that wants to go run to your friends and tell them what he did wrong in X, Y, and Z. And I was so young, I did not know. I didn't know to not listen to a woman when she's going crazy and crying about her relationship. The only thing I knew is that my friend was going through X, Y, and Z, and I jumped like the dumb I was. But the facts do remain the same. And if so I've let this go because it's so freaking old. This is so old, but this is a part of my trauma. This is a part of my truth. This is so old that he went on to make songs about it and so forth and so on. That same silver gun that was on the table when he was arrested, that one silver revolver with the long nose on it was the gun that he put to my head, screaming, "Child, kill you, child, kill you." So my PSA today is about me speaking about my past trauma, what I went through. That's my truth. That is my truth. Your daughter was there to witness it. His sister Precious, rest in peace, was there to witness it. And many other children.
Rob Kardashian even mentioned his baby mama Chai's three-way relationship with T and Tiny. However, her assertion that the couple had abused multiple women, coerced them into using drugs, and got weird with them was what really got people talking. She also claimed that if Tay was having too much fun with one of these women, he would become envious and beat them mercilessly while he watched. And if the women attempted to strike back, or at the very least protect themselves, it appears they may have just gotten together, despite being together for a long time. Tay would hold them wide open for Tiny to do her thing, and Sabrina wasn't just making this public for the sake of doing so. Oh no, she brought with her several receipts from women detailing how they were treated at T.I. and Tiny's house, and on top of that, 12 women sued the couple for SA and for giving them drugs at parties. They are trauma bonded because of the crazy things they have gone through together. For example, Tiny had to support the family while he was in prison by trying to purchase 3 or 4 machine guns. She made sure that their children and family were taken care of, but by the time he left the house, they were back to their previous ways in a messy drama. After Exie was discovered in West Hollywood, T and Tiny were imprisoned there. Tiny claimed that their car was hers, but when the feds took a TI test, he failed and was immediately sent back to jail for an additional 11 months for breaking the terms of his probation. When he eventually came out, he was eager to resume his role as the head of his family and make all of the decisions, but Tiny was not the same person he had left.
Found my own voice. He was used to saying, okay, no, we're doing this, we're moving this way, and I'd be like, oh, okay. But when he came home, he'd say, we're moving this way, and I'd be like, well, no, I got this to do, and he's like, well, that's not the way. You know, it wasn't what he was used to. He was used to controlling things.
Wait a minute.
And, well, having things his way at all times. But once I got on my own 2 feet, I felt like I should have a voice too. And that voice, it was a little different from what he was used to. Right. So that, to me, is what caused the issue. Wasn't because I'm just being outlandishly disrespectful, because if you recall, you could not move, you could not go anywhere. I was still in the house, like I was on probation, doing all the things. But because I had a voice that was not so timid, like to me, this is my outlook. This is my outlook.
Oh no, she had matured and at last found her voice because she had to take charge, and baby T did not like that at all. They began to have problems, and instead of resolving them, T.I. was leaping headfirst into some new Honey Walls baby he got with Bernice Burgos and was allegedly teasing others. T.I.'s female group French Kiss, which finally resulted in the group's dissolution. Now, let's be clear, Tiny has had her own cycle of men and women, and naturally, hers was more subdued than T's since, as you may know, he can't handle half of what he throws at her once. She was spreading her legs for a man, he believed. Floyd Mayweather arrived in Vegas like a vengeful bird and began tearing everything up, and the children had to see all of this stupid action. Tiny and T were so preoccupied with each other's affairs that they never had any time for the children. After all, their own drama was sufficient to keep them busy, and yes, T and Tiny provided a good life for their children and are able to afford more than most people. But money isn't everything when it comes to being a good parent. The children were constantly with their grandparents, and the 2 of them were out being themselves. Although no one is claiming that Tiny and Ty abandoned their children, they undoubtedly neglected them in certain ways. Major's other mother, Sister Precious, died in 2019. She was the mother of those children who provided stability for them. Features that were favorable to the individuals and extracurricular activities they were involved in.
I was outside, y'all. I swear I was always outside as a kid. Why? Because when you got parents who, do shit in the industry, you know how y'all try to make it seem like, celebrity kids, they just got the best lifestyle. My parents, I ain't never seen them. My parents, I ain't never seen them. I ain't never seen my parents. I ain't never seen my parents. Let's just call it out. Like, let's just call it what it is. Like, these folks busy. They busy. And now that I'm older, I don't even, I don't care about that.
Growing up with his grandma, King Harris even developed his complete hood persona. Has been quite outspoken about how his parents abandoned him in his eyes.
He know that. Hey, no know it. He capping. He capping. He know I stand on business. He know that. Hey, no ever pull my car ever in life. I stand on business. You drop me somewhere, I stand on business. You drop me in your hood, I stand on business. Yeah. I've been stood on business. I've been stood on business. You want to hide it for the world, I'm going to put it out there for them to see. I want to put up nowhere. You ain't had me put up nowhere. Like, you ain't had me behind a mansion. I was outside doing what I wanted to do.
Certainly, people do have opinions on the way that Tiny and T.I. have been raising their kids. Tay is a lousy father, but Tiny is also a terrible mother and a nasty stepmother. Together, they make a bad parent dynamic. The phrases T.I. and Tiny and Real Black Love shouldn't even be used together. I was aware that the show wasn't real. You could tell. Do you think that T.I. and Tiny's children are tripping over their parents' neglect of them, or are they justified in speaking out? The daughter always seemed incredibly uneasy around all of them. Leave a comment with your ideas, and don't be afraid to click off before you're satisfied. And subscribe to B Bates. I'll see you next time.